Hey guys, welcome to episode number 5 of What's the Move? Today we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to show you a play where I certainly made the wrong move. In the heat of the action, I wasn't thinking about the right things, I made the wrong decision, and it ends up costing me the game. So with that in mind, I want to show you guys this current board state and see if you could do what I was unable to do during a ladder game that I was streaming live on Twitch. So here we can see we are currently facing down a Tar Creeper and a Vilespine Slayer. We have a Draconid Operative and a Twilight Draken board, so we're winning on board. But another key thing that's going on here is the life totals. My opponent is at 23 life and I am at 16 life. Here up on the screen, you can take a look at the cards that I have already played this game. Those are going to be on the right. And the cards that my opponent has already played this game. Those are going to be on the left. They're quite relevant, I think, to the decisions that we will be making shortly. Given what we've seen so far, it's very fair to put our opponent on a Tempo Rogue list. And we ourselves are playing Mitsuhide's Dragon Priest, which is a really cool list that trims down on some of the more defensive cards that you might normally see in a list like this to be a little more low to the ground. In our hand, we have Divine Spirit, Lyra, Draconid Operative, Double Cobalt Scalebane, Priest of the Feast, Netherspite Historian, and a Shadow Step. One final thing to note is that our opponent still has the coin in hand. So now that we've taken a look at the cards that are on board, the cards that have already been played, and the cards which are still remaining in both decks, what's the move?
Moves quickly.
As you guys can see, the line I ended up going for was basically as aggressive as I could have done. I play a Draconid Operative, take a card which will guarantee that I should have lethal next turn, and follow it up with one of my Cobalt Scalebanes. This gives me complete control of the board, and it makes it very, very, very difficult for my opponent to not die on the following turn. So, what's the mistake that I made here? Where did everything go wrong? Well, if we stop to take a look at the current state of the game, I'm really ahead. Like really, really ahead. My board's better, I could trade it into his, I have way more cards in hand, and I'm also likely to be drawing better cards as the game goes on. So when you're this far ahead, the question, how am I going to win this game, becomes far less important than the question, how can I possibly lose this game? That's something that I did not take into account nearly as much as I should have. This concept is called playing to outs, or what cards, what outs does my opponent have which could possibly make me lose? So in this kind of situation, what I should have thought is there a combination of cards that my opponent can present to me which is capable of killing me next turn? No matter how remote the possibility, this is something that needed to be on my mind, and it simply wasn't. I was thinking, how do I win? How can I set myself up to win next turn? And while that's generally a good idea, when you're this far ahead and you have the ability to play around these 1%, 2% odd combinations of cards that your opponent could have, that's exactly what you should do. And as it turns out, my opponent did in fact have Leroy Jenkins into Shadow Step, but the second Shadow Step also could have been a Cold Blood, and it would have been enough to finish me off. So if we're working backwards from how do we lose this game, let's think of the worst possible combination of cards that our opponent could have for us. It actually isn't what they had. The worst combination of cards is Leroy Jenkins, Shadow Step, double Cold Blood. Between the 2 Cold Bloods, that's 8 points of damage, and the 2 attacks from Leroy, that's 12. The dagger adds up to 21. That means that if we're assuming our opponent has the worst possible combination of cards in hand, we need to put ourselves to 22. And there's really only one way we can put ourselves to 22. That is Priest of the Feast plus Divine Spirit plus Shadow Step. So the best line that we have will start and finish there. Play Priest of the Feast. We probably want a Divine Spirit on the Twilight Drake because that makes the most sense. Shadow Step the Draconic Operative after we make an attack with it because then we can get some added value from that. And then replay it. This would put ourselves in a position to not die the following turn. We would have huge control over the board. We could potentially continue to heal ourselves and play safe while presenting pressure. And we would very much more than likely be able to close out this game from this position. If you guys are interested in learning more about the concept of playing to outs, I have written about that in detail in my guide on Icy Veins called Legend in the Making. I'm going to go ahead and link part 2 where I talk about that concept in the YouTube description here, and that will wrap things up for this episode of What's the Move. I'll see you guys next time.